Hello there and welcome to the Card Grotto. Today I've got a card to share with you using Monochromatic no-line stenciling. So let's get started. This is the stamp set that I'm using today. This is the Hero Arts Holiday Ornament set and it is perfect for colouring with lots of different mediums, but there are also two stencils that you can use to coordinate with it. So this is the Holiday Ornaments and Trimmings stencil. So you've got all of the different ornaments in the set, and then you can kind of layer up with different colours if you wanted to do ink blending. There's also a branch there and a bow, and then there is also the layering ornament stencil, which is the other shapes of the ornaments, and then as you can see you've got 3 layers for each of the ornaments as well. So I'm going to stamp out my images first. I'm taking 3 of the ornaments from the Holiday Ornaments stamp set and I'm going to stamp those with Hero Arts contour ink. This is a really pale grey ink which is perfect for no line colouring, or in my case no line stenciling. So I'm just inking up those images really well and stamping them down onto some Hero Arts Dove White cardstock. I am going to stamp them twice just because it's such a pale colour. I want to make sure that I can actually see what I'm doing. And I just get a slightly darker impression by double stamping them. And then I decided to cut the ornaments out into 3 separate pieces of cardstock. I'm not 100% sure why I did this, but it obviously felt that I needed to at the time. So I'm going to take the pieces with the ornaments stamped on top and I'm just adhering those down temporarily onto some scrap paper, and then I'm going to take the Holiday Ornaments and Trimming stencil and I'm going to use that first stencil to place on top of this shaped ornament. So you've got 3 different layers here. I'm actually only using 2 for these ornaments and I'm keeping them very monochromatic, just with blues. I thought it would look quite nice just to have a very monochromatic card, but I also think this would work really nicely with lots of different colours. So I'm going to do ink blending through the stencil. So I'm starting off by adding my first base layer of colour, and this is the Hero Arts Dusty Blue Mid-Tone Shadow ink. Really pretty blue shade, and I'm using Hero Arts blending brushes to add the colour on top. I'm trying to make it so that the darkest colour is on the right hand side and leaving a slight bit of a highlight sort of in the middle, more towards the left hand side. And then I'm going to go in with the navy mid-tone shadow ink and I'm just going to add a slight amount of this onto the brush so that I can just add a small amount onto that right hand side of the ornament. This is just going to darken that shadow up slightly. I can then remove the stencil and then work out which layer I want to add next. Like I said, there are 2 layers, but I'm just using the one. You could actually use these stencils just on their own without the stamp set, but I did find it easier, even with the no line ink, to be able to see where the layers kind of need to be. But you could definitely use them on their own if you wanted to. So I'm using that Hero Arts Navy Mid-Tone Shadow ink and I'm just adding that on for this layer. I really wanted, like I said, for a monochromatic look, so I'm going for the darker blue for the kind of detail on the ornaments and the lighter blue for the base of the ornaments. I'm then taking the topper piece from that stencil and I'm just going to place that at the top of the ornament, and I'm going to use Hero Arts Soft Granite Shadow ink to add that detail on top. And I'm just going to use a very light hand with this ink. It is quite pale in colour, but you can build it up if you want to. But I was kind of making it so it looked kind of like silver. And then I can just remove that stencil and I've got a really lovely ink blended ornament. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing for the other 2 ornaments. So I've got this round one here, and this is using the Hero Arts Holiday Ornaments stencil, or layering ornament stencil, I do apologise. And again, I'm just adding that dusty blue colour, mainly towards the right hand side, trying to leave a slight highlight on the left hand side, and then I'm just using the residual navy ink on that brush, and then I'm going to go in with the second layer. So I'm missing out the middle layer and just going in with the second layer. Because I've used that no line ink, that contour ink, you can't really see the lines once you've added the detail on top. I can kind of see it when I'm kind of lining them up, but not a huge amount. So if you don't line them up completely, or if you don't want to have some of the layers on, it wouldn't matter. So I just added that topper piece, and when I did try and line this topper piece up, I realised that I didn't quite lay the layers on properly compared to the ink blending, so I'm going to figure out how to sort that out later. So for the last ornament here, this is definitely my favourite. I really love the shape of this ornament. And it also lined up perfectly as well, so that's always good. I think as you kind of go along, you get used to how they all kind of layer up together, but they do line up really nicely. It was just one of those things that I didn't quite line up that circle one completely. So I'm just adding in that detail layer on top with that navy ink. Again, just trying to focus more of the colour on the right hand side, and then add that topper on the top. So next I want to die cut these out with the Hero Arts Holiday Ornaments frame cuts, but I was slightly worried that I couldn't quite see how I was lining up the die on top of the stamped and stenciled image. So what I did was I cut it out from some sand cardstock, and I'm going to place that on top, and that's going to show where the kind of white outline will be on the die cut, and then I can kind of place the die right inside, and it kind of just pops in like a puzzle piece, and then I can run that through my die cutting machine, and that's going to cut those perfectly. I did share this tip a long time ago, probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, but it is really helpful if you're not quite sure where you're going to line up the die. So I can just pop out those inside pieces of the topper, and then this is where you can see that it's not quite lined up, so it's not ideal, but I'm just going to take some scissors and I'm just going to cut along the top of that topper piece, and apart from you and I, no one will ever know that it didn't quite line up properly, thanks to that contour ink being so light. So next I'm going to work on my sentiment, and I'm using the Hero Arts Make Your Own Snow Globe stamp set. This is such a cute little set, and there's lots of lovely sentiments in it. So I'm going to stamp out the one that says Sending Cheer. I'm going to stamp it onto some Dove White cardstock with Hero Arts Intens-ified black ink. I felt that I pressed a little bit too hard on the first sentiment, so I'm just going to redo that and just try and press a little bit lighter. It's such a small sentiment that you don't need to press hard at all, and I'm going to cut that out using the frame cuts from the Hero Arts Message Strips Stamp and Cut XL set, and it's a little bit longer than I need it to, so I'm just going to cut off the two edges with a mini guillotine. So now I have a piece of Hero Arts Nautical cardstock cut to 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches that I'm going to use as my card panel. So I'm just placing the ornaments down to start with so that I can see where I want them to be placed. I want them to kind of look like they're sort of hanging from the top of the card, so I wanted to stagger the height of them. I'm going to take some Altenew thread. This is actually labelled as lilac, but I actually think you can get away with it being silver. I think it's a really pretty shade, so I'm just threading that through the top of the ornament, and I've added some foam tape onto the back of the ornament here, so I can just remove the backings of that foam tape with tweezers, and then I can stick that down onto the panel. So I'm just going to have this first ornament quite high up on the panel, and then once I'm happy with the placement, I can just press that down, and then I'm going to take the thread here and I'm going to attach it to the back of the panel. So that's going to look like the ornament is hanging from the top, and you're not going to see the back once I add it to a card base. So I can just do the same thing with the other ornaments. Just added some foam tape onto the back of that ornament, and then I'm just using the other ornament just to make sure that I've got it placed where I want it to. And then I can stick that thread down on the back of the card panel. And I'm just using some Scotch tape for that, but any tape would work. And then I can stick that last one down as well. And again, just attach that thread onto the back of the panel and cut off the excess. And now I can adhere that panel onto an A2 sized card base that I have cut and made from more Hero Arts Nautical cardstock. I'm just using some tape runner just to add that onto the back of the panel. As you can see, I'm using quite a lot. I want to make sure that this is going to stick down really nicely. And then I can just line that up with the card base. And that's going to cover up that thread, and it's also going to secure it in between the different layers of cardstock as well. So I'm just going to grab a bone folder here just to really enforce that top part of the card. I'm then going to add a little bit of foam tape onto the back of the sentiment strip just on the left hand side, and I can add some tape runner on the right hand side just so that it's going to be all one level with the ornaments. Grabbing my T-square ruler here just to make sure that I place that on straight. And then I can finish off by adding some white enamel dots from the Hero Arts Neutrals Hero Hues enamel dots pack. And I'm just trying to be as random as possible with these enamel dots. Obviously it's never random, let's face it, but I'm just trying my best to make it look as random as possible. So I add a few, and then I think that it's not quite balanced enough, so I add a few more. And so that's the card finished for today. As you can see, I kept it very simple indeed, but you could do lots of different layers with lots of different colours with this set, and I think it would be really pretty as well. I just really like that monochromatic look. Links to the products that I used will be in the description bar on YouTube and also over on my blog. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.